There's a lot of intertwined issues there. And let me start with the very specific issue of climate change and the energy transformation that we know we need. We need to move to a zero carbon energy system. Excuse me. Uh, and that requires actually a lot of long-term thinking and a lot of international cooperation. So every day in the context of the Ukraine war, I'm asked by somebody, and it happened again this morning, what's the implication of the war for climate change? In other words, you see Russia cutting off or threatening to cut off natural gas to Europe, or Europe putting on sanctions on oil and gas imports from Russia. Will this accelerate the energy transition? And the answer is basically no, because it may change the calculus in the very short term. It's actually opening up more coal mines again, or pumping more gas and oil to make up for what has been lost from Russian supplies. Maybe by raising the price of oil and gas on world markets, it's making some new solar projects more economical and financeable. But all of that misses the main point, which is that the real changes we need are long-term strategic changes in the energy system. And that requires a stable, peaceful, cooperative environment. Even renewable energy, to be efficient and effective, needs to cross borders. It needs to be regional, even globally connected in some ways, maybe in the new hydrogen economy. We can't do this if we're in conflict. We won't do this if we're in conflict. So this is the first point, that almost everything of real value for development, and what we now call and should call sustainable development, meaning economic development that is also socially just and environmentally sustainable, requires a long perspective. If you have a short perspective because of huge uncertainties, because of war, because of conflict, then you can't accomplish anything real of the transformations that we need. You can improvise, you can maybe keep your footing in the short term, perhaps, but the truth of the matter is real development of any kind requires years, even decades of hard, continuous work, educating children, building infrastructure, cooperating across riversheds, building power transmission grids that are, again, transnational. And that is a long-term cooperative effort that depends on peace. And we're not getting there right now, partly because our mindsets really are wrong. And unfortunately, what I have inveighed against in the US context is the idea, which is very popular, it's in every speech of US leaders, that the world is safe when the United States leads the world. So primacy, or what the political scientists call hegemony, is really built into the American thinking. I think Henry Luce did an unfortunate thing to America when he, in 1941, christened this as the American century. It was a great turn of phrase, by the way, so inspiring and so ennobling. But it actually basically went to the heads of the permanent state that they took it literally. This is our century. In the past, it was Britain's century in the industrial age of the 19th century, or it was the Mongol century, or it was the Roman centuries. Now it's our century. Oh, what a dangerous way to think about things, because you get way overstretched. You act provocatively without even attempting to understand the other side. And that, unfortunately, is so much of what happened in Europe after the 1990 remarkable transformation. And as you know, I was there. I was physically present in the Kremlin in December 1991. You couldn't even believe. I mean, I could not believe, and especially you'd appreciate it. A kid from Detroit sitting in the Kremlin in this huge office, and who walks in the far door? Boris Yeltsin, and he walks across the room, and he sat down right in front of me because I was leading the delegation. And he said, "Gentlemen," because it was all men, he said, "Gentlemen, in the next room is the leaders of the Soviet military, and I have just agreed with them to the dissolution of the Soviet Union." I heard literally those words.
Wow.
Yeah, wow is exactly right. It was weird.
Huge turning.
No, so
Yeah.
I thought, and I had been working in the Soviet Union before that. I was told, I don't know if it's true, that I was the first person to brief the Gosplan leadership in its entirety on the top floor of Gosplan, just outside of Red Square, in 1990, to the Politburo leader who headed Gosplan on the transformation to a market economy. And they were taking notes, 50 Soviet leaders on the other side, all with notebooks open, taking copious notes about market economics. But the fact of the matter is, Gorbachev and Yeltsin wanted a common home. Gorbachev, who I regard as the greatest statesman of our age, and who's reviled in Russia for having lost the Soviet Union and for inflation and everything else, he's the greatest statesman of our age because he understood that what we needed was peace rather than a cold or hot wars. And he was ready to even let the system fall rather than shoot people to, quote, save the old system. But his idea, which I know, was a common home from Rotterdam to Vladivostok, that we have a common European home. I believed it. I went to work for his team in 1991, promoting what we called the Grand Bargain, working with Graham Allison, who was then head of the Kennedy School at Harvard, and Stanley Fischer and others. And we recommended a significant financial assistance program to the Soviet Union to support its economic and political reforms. What was the White House response? Complete niet, nothing, nichevo, not anything. We're not doing this. Okay, that was a disaster for, the failure of Western support definitely undermined Gorbachev. Yeltsin emerged after the attempted putsch against Gorbachev, which was in the summer of August 1991. And then I was contacted by Yeltsin's economic leader, Yegor Gaidar, and I came to Moscow. And Yeltsin said,